First, how do you view the TCJA provisions?
Right. So right now, to extend the TCGA over the next 10 years would cost about 4.1 trillion. That includes the individual business and estate tax provisions. And then in addition to that, the president on his campaign trail cited some other tax cuts he wanted to introduce that seems like they are pushing to include in this reconciliation bill. And that would be no tax on overtime, no tax on tips, and then exempting Social Security benefits from taxation. And when you add those three, that's another $2 trillion in tax cuts. So now you're getting, pretty much, just over $6 trillion in proposed tax cuts. And the current reconciliation bill, I mean, the one they ended up passing recently does call for fewer spending cuts than was in the bill from, I believe, a month ago. Then they were targeting some cuts to Medicaid, I think was the largest expenditure there, and then some other elements of our discretionary budget. But the problem is that these are not really, I mean, if you're talking about just like the fiscal side, I mean, Medicaid is a large expenditure and definitely needs to be reformed, but a lot of these other programs that are being targeted, I mean, these are, I mean, the discretionary budget itself is just not the largest driver of our spending problem. That is mainly Medicare and Social Security. And the Republicans have seemingly already taken any reforms there off the table. And I think, I mean, of course, they already have so much on their plate as is, and that would be going down another another rabbit hole in its entirety. But it does seem that I mean I think they are going to pass. They are likely going to pass a deficit finance tax cut. The question is how large is it going to be? And you do have certainly in the Senate. I mean you have some Republicans that are more moderate, like Susan Collins, the senator from Maine, and certainly someone like her is not going to go along, with a tax cut that large. But you do have, maybe some more fiscally conservative senators as well that I think would be very uncomfortable passing a $6 trillion tax cut. And it's not really clear, I mean, in terms of pay fors, what what they are, what they're looking at. I mean, one thing that we did hear rumors of that we were certainly surprised to hear was that the pres apparently on the table is raising the top marginal tax rate from 37% to 39.6%. That would simply just be letting the rate that was enacted under TCJA expire, and that would actually be really, I think, unprecedented in recent history because, in general, Republicans have tended to want to cut tax rates for everyone across the distribution. And you have other groups out there like Americans for Tax Reform, that are very influential, with the administration that are very much dead set against doing something like that. But the president is considering that as one potential revenue raiser. But as far as that, we haven't really heard too much else in terms of what other deductions they might want to consider eliminating. I mean, in fact, it seemed like they actually were thinking of, at least in the campaign trail, even moving away from that. I mean, the president, was talking about how he wanted to quote unquote, fix the state and local tax deduction. Even though he was even though this was a bill that I mean, this was a bill that he signed, right? So
By fixing it,
I,
he meant removing the cap. Yeah,
exactly removing the cap, and if
that
they
he
were to do
imposed. Yeah.
that he imposed, and that that cap was a very large revenue raiser. I mean, that would be adding another $1 trillion to the cost of the tax cuts if that were to go away. And in fact, I mean, they should probably, if they're really looking for revenue raisers, they should probably just consider removing that deduction entirely to raise additional revenues, and also look at some other deductions within the tax code.